this is, I've literally just stood here, let the chunks load, and went from there. So before we get into the nitty gritty, let's pick our starter. I always go with Charmander. I know nothing about Pokemon. Okay, so before you're like, oh, before you say some shit like, oh, he's the worst starter, whatever. I don't know that. Okay, I pick him because he's cute. All right. I could go further and pick another cute one, but I'm going with the basic ass bitch cutie. Okay. To me, he's adorable, and I love him, and I love fire types, and I love the element of fire. So like, I love, I love like fucking Zuko and Iroh in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So leave me be. But yeah, we're gonna pick Charmander, and then let's do some of these quests. Some of these quests are just like right off the bat, they give you shit. So like this one, welcome to BigChadGuys Plus. Here, have some cake. Don't mind if I do. That gets you some free cake. We'll unlock all of these guys because they'll give us the branches for the different. See, give you the different quests in each branch, and some of these, like these ones, the dungeon exploration, those are based on us getting there. So if I happen to pass one, I'd like to still get the quest anyway, even if I didn't actually go in. So here's create. Oh, we do have. Okay. So I think we have, yeah, we have Vinery, Farmer's Delight. I think we have an add-on for Farmer's Delight. And then I'm pretty sure we have Croptopia. Oh yes, and then we have the immersive aircraft one. I love that one. Um, there we go. Oh yes, Explorer's Compass. Thank you. Some of these are really easy to do. This little branch right here is easy peasy. Yeah. So I think that's everything for now. Here's the Cobblemon quests. They're completely separate again, because even though it does have Cobblemon, you don't have to do it if you really don't want to. And if you do want this pack without Cobblemon, you can either play this and just not do the Cobblemon quests, or you can go play BigChadGuys Plus non-Cobblemon option. So, um, and this starts off with you crafting a Pokeball. We can't do that yet because you don't have apricorns. Yeah, so let's get into it. I'm excited because I see a lot of goodies. If you haven't seen me play a game like this before, um I'm a collect them all type of person when it comes to Croptopia. I fucking love just picking every single one of the things I see. And at one point when I was playing this on my own, I made a list. So I would get everything. Okay, that was stupid. This is Vinery. I don't know why we're lagging a little bit. Using fast when streaming. It might just be the chunks. Uh, Strawberries. I wonder what strawberries those were. That didn't look the same. I'm trying to separate them. Squash. I'm trying to separate the seeds so I can get rid of this stuff eventually, the actual crops. Pretty flower. Oh, it's a potato. I'll take it. Potatoes are really fucking good. Oh, this is apricorn. White apricorns. Please give me a seed. Begging. Seed me. God, where did it go? All the way to the bot. Jesus Christ. That's just me. Uh. Pretty big, cool. Let's ditch some of this. Ooh, we could probably make a little hidey hole home here. Do that. I don't want to go too far, because I am known for being picky about where I live. And that's not going to do me any favors here. So, cabbage, or sorry, lettuce, lechuga. Lechuga? Oh, there's a sheep. messages. Oh, okay. Let's go beat the shit out of this sheep. Oh, oh. Something died in the bushes. Maybe like, duh, it was a chicken. No, because some of these Cobblemon Pokemon, they drop chicken. I know because I've killed them with my bare fists before. Just casually picking up break back. Oh, that was really cute, Foxy, wherever you are. That was, oh, hello! Oh, these two. I'm not gonna go after them because I'm still loading in chunks. It's laggy as shit. Oh my goodness. Whew. I apologize. Hopefully he'll chill out. I don't know what the problem is. Oh, those are, whatchamacallits. I'm changing the setting. Something. Okay. That might help us out a little. See. Oh, the pink. The pink. Of the falling leaves. Ah, okay. Dude, no one's gonna give a shit about this. But you know what I've been fucking obsessed with the past couple days? So, I'm on the side of TikTok that, like, randomly shows you fanfic ideas. Um, it'll either be, like, people endorsing, or not endorsing, but either people, um, being like, hey, go check out my fanfic by showing you, like, giving you a little blurb from it or a little snippet of it. I think this was Blurberry? Luck. Off by one letter. Um, or it'll be like a character AI bot that someone's endorsing or something. Um, something. Temporary waypoint. Anyway, so I saw someone endorsing um their fanfic, and it was a there wasn't like any love interest to it, which I thought was nice. Um, but it was a basically like Daryl Dixon is a father figure fic where their OC essentially becomes Daryl Dixon's child. And if you don't know who Daryl Dixon is, that's a character from the Walking Dead show. Um, and the idea is so fucking cute because you see a little bit of his like thank you. You see like a little bit of where was down here? Yes, haha. You see a little bit of his like fatherly instincts in the show when it comes to the kids, like in later seasons. Dr. Pepper. But like you really see it with Judith, I think is her name, Judith, Rick's daughter. And you see it a little bit with Sophia when he like really tries to find Sophia in season 2. But just the idea of this like pretty quiet, badass, asshole-ish redneck character becoming like a father figure to this kid who has no one else in the world is the cutest fucking thing. I'm also drinking the yo! Dude, we know what's up. I bounced around a lot on what my favorite soda was, but I honestly think Dr. Pepper is it. I think I've decided permanently. Like I bounced between this, Mountain Dew, and I think a couple others, but I think I've chosen correctly. Damn. Still kitted out. What the shit? Um yeah, one of the tropes that a lot of people writing the fanfics with Daryl Dixon as a father figure is that the character is truly alone in the world. Like their family died or their family were asshole. Basically, almost every time their family dies in some way, shape, or form, 9 times out of 10 they were abusive. I'm assuming they write that, one, to partially excuse the deaths, and then also, I keep being distracted because this I can hear myself with this mic, and I can hear myself doing the breathing, so I apologize. It's bothering me, so I can't even imagine. But anyway, the they'll like try to excuse the family's death as like, oh yeah, they were assholes, instead of just being like, oh, we had to kill them off type of thing. But I feel like a part of that is also because Daryl Dixon and Marl Dixon are known for having come from an a toxic and abusive household. So I feel like it makes Daryl relate to the kid more, so he becomes more prone to liking them, because he sees himself in them in some way, shape, or form, which I think is really fucking cute. But then because they have no one else, sometimes what the writer will do is they'll make it so nobody in the group like actually takes care of this kid. Like they'll kind of take care of them here and there, but because it's not their child, they they don't take over full responsibility, and it's like a young kid. Like 9 times out of 10 these fanfics have this kid being like younger than Carl. And Carl at the beginning of the show, I'm pretty sure was 11. Sophia was 12. So this kid will be like 10, maybe 11, maybe 12, but usually like younger than Carl. Like I've seen 8, I've seen 4. Um and nobody in the group tends to this kid. Like this kid is fully alone. Everybody else is like, for instance, Carol is focused on Sophia, Rick and Lori are focused on Carl. So like no one is really focusing in on this kid except for Daryl, who is the quiet one that sees a lot of shit going on. So of course he picks up on the fact that this kid is basically being left behind left and right. It's so fucking cute, and the whole entire like those fics honestly heal a little bit of my trauma. Not gonna lie, which is probably why I gravitate toward them. It's like all I've been doing the past couple of days is reading these fics because they're so sweet. Like they are tooth rotting sweet. It's adorable. I cannot recommend them enough if you're into that kind of thing. So that's your ranking. Dr. P, Baja Blast, Jones. I don't think I've had Jones Cream Soda. I don't know how I feel about Baja Blast. Do I like it more than regular Mountain Dew? I don't know. I really don't have Baja Blast often. Because while my mom, she used to have a soda addiction, specifically to Pepsi. And she had a period where she quit soda and that she wasn't like drinking soda at home unless we ordered food or whatever. Um, but she, as of like the past few months, she got back into having like 2 liters of soda, and she's been drinking Mountain Dew. So we'll just have we only have like regular Mountain Dew at home, and usually the only time I'll ever even think about getting Baja Blast is when I'm at Taco Bell, which isn't often. So I can't really say I don't really know where Baja Blast lands on my ranking. Um, I like cherry flavors, I've discovered. So like I prefer cherry Pepsi over Pepsi. Um, cherry Dr Pepper feels a little bit redundant because I'm pretty sure Dr Pepper is already like cherry flavored, but I think that's pretty good too. I don't know if I prefer it over regular. Who else? I feel like Mountain Dew's probably my second. Um, so then maybe cherry Pepsi's third. I don't know. When I stick with certain sodas for a long ass time and I don't switch, which is the problem here because I can't think of how I feel about other sodas. I will say I dislike root beer. Hot take, don't like root beer. Makes me kind of physically ill a little bit. Like, I don't know, maybe it's the sweetness of it. I have no idea, but it genuinely makes me ill. Um Shirley Temples though. You know what? No, no, no. Shirley Temples technically I'm pretty sure soda cuz if you make it at home, it's Sprite. Um I like it I like our local brand. It's literally like a brand from the city directly next to me. Oh, delicious. They make amazing cream sodas. I oh, I still like um Shirley Temples if you make them at home or wherever, but I prefer this specific brand because there's just something about it. It's so good. So if you're counting Shirley Temple, then Shirley Temple's 1, Dr Pepper's 2. but I kind of don't count it because I don't like it from everywhere. I like it from this specific brand that's only in this area. That probably isn't even something you can buy out of state unless you find someone online that sells it. But I haven't had Code Red. Is it just cherry flavor? I drink soda for the carbonation, and sparkling water doesn't cut it. If it's not burning my throat, I don't want it. That's so fair. I Sometimes I do drink soda for the carbonation. I think more than anything, I drink it for the caffeine, not for the boost, but for my migraines. Because sometimes caffeine will be like the cure-all. Like nothing else works, but for some fucking reason, get me a fountain soda and boom, it's gone. Um, Sparkling water. I was drinking. Oh, I have a bottle right here. Walmart sells this brand, Clear American, and they do a bunch of different sparkling water um, flavors, some of which I recently noticed are based off of different mixed drinks. Pretty sure. There was one that's the red, white, and blue popsicles, and then there's this one. You'll see the condensation because this bottle's been in my room for a hot fucking minute. Blue raspberry. Dude, this shit tastes like the blue raspberry slushies you get at the fucking movie theater. It's so good. The magic has kind of gone away because I've been drinking it so much, but this is a good dupe for me when I'm trying not to drink a shit ton of soda, but want something carbonated, you know? Obviously, it's not as much carbonation, but it's something. It is cherry? Okay. I'll have to try it. I'm not that adventurous when it comes to things I drink. I should be because I really don't hate a lot of drinks. That's the one area where I'm not that picky. Like I'm picky with juice because I don't like most. Oh, there was a fox. I was like, what the fuck was that noise? Did you hear that? Um, just because I don't like most fruit. So like of course I'm not gonna like most juices. Like I hate tropical drinks. Um, like I hate pineapple. I hate like fucking guava. Like anything that has like tropical in the name or has like a tropical fruit in the name, count me out. But like take apple juice. I'll take fucking almost any soda out there. What's a soda I would drink? I don't know. I would drink grape sodas, but I wouldn't enjoy it. I think that's really my only thing other than juices. And we're not counting alcoholic beverages because I'm as picky there as I am everywhere else. So that doesn't count. But like regular drinks, I'll drink almost anything. Although I am picky with the temperatures and because we were talking about soda, the carbonation. So like if it's a flat soda, I'll bear it. It's not great. I we were talking about this in a Discord I'm in. I'm trying to like wait out. I'm trying to wait out the night because I was stupid and didn't get like. Well, I guess there's. It's not. I thought there was coal for a second. I can dig in while we. But we were talking about this in a Discord I'm in. Oh, fuck off! I thought he was just still running around somewhere. I didn't expect him to be right here. Fuck off. Anyway, you know what? Let's just gonna do that. So only spiders can get in. Um, but we were talking about this in a Discord I'm in that we were having a debate on how we feel about flat room temp soda. And me and like a couple other people were like, that's fucking disgusting. You're a heathen if you drink that. Like I understand if you're trying to get rid of it, like you're just trying to finish off a cup because it got lukewarm and it's not fizzy anymore and you just want to wash the cup or like do over or whatever. I get that. I get it because money, right? Money's tight. I get it. In this fucking economy, you can't really afford to be to be picky sometimes. I say is the pickiest bitch on the planet. But if you have a choice, if you have a choice or you're like me, you're not drinking that shit. I can understand it being I could kind of understand room temp. I think I'd prefer it to be flat over room temp because I hate room temp drinks if they're supposed to be cold. Like if I am supposed to be drinking a cold drink, I want it fucking Arctic. Like, that's how I like my water, especially. It needs to be freezing cold. Like, you can see my breath afterwards because it was so fucking cold. I need to get brain freeze. Like, do not serve me room temp shit if it's supposed to be cold because you will see me sipping on that thing over hours just to appease you. If I'm on my own, I'm like you said, straight down the drain. I'm not fucking drinking that shit. Same with if it's flat. I'm also not drinking that shit. But that's more because I don't know if anyone else relates to this. I haven't talked about this part to anyone. But when I drink flat soda, I can feel it on my teeth. I can feel some feeling, I don't even know, just on the edges of my teeth. Like my body is viscerally telling me this is wrong. I get it more with Pepsi for whatever reason. I didn't used to, but I get it more with Pepsi now. Um, and I get like a similar-ish feeling when I have to like have paper near my mouth, like lick an envelope or whatever. Um, or if there's like a paper straw, I get like a somewhat similar feeling. Um, it's the same in that it happens in the same spot on my teeth, which is weird, but it's different in that the paper one genuinely makes me want to scream, and the soda one just makes me very uncomfortable. I don't even know how to explain the actual feeling itself. Room temp doesn't bother me unless it's water. However, if it's 3 a.m. and I have a room temp water, I don't care. That's so fair. If it's 3 a.m. and you're thirsty, you're gonna drink almost anything. And you're probably gonna fucking guzzle it down like you've been in the Sahara Desert for a week. You know? But I don't know. Me personally, I'm not gonna drink it unless I absolutely have to. If it's, especially if it's both room temp and flat, fuck that. Also, again, if someone serves me room temp flat soda, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you trying to poison me? Rude. Like, that feels fucked. That feels absolutely fucked up. Okay, we need. I have food. I don't want to. Really don't want to eat my cake because it's really good. I don't think I have. I can't. I feel like I can't justify it. Another one. Paper straws. Ugh. Ugh. They make me so mad. I hate paper straws. If someone gives me a paper straw and I have the chance, I will toss that shit in the garbage and just guzzle it from the cup. Like, I don't care if you're trying to be sanitary. I know 9 times out of 10 if someone's doing paper straws, it's cuz they're trying to like be good for the environment, but if you're specifically giving me straws because you're trying to be sanitary and not have like mouths touch cups. Sorry, too bad. I'm throwing away the paper straw and putting my mouth all over that cup. You cannot catch me dead or alive using a paper straw. No fucking shot. No chance. Like I haven't tried bamboo straws, so I don't know how those are, but I know that paper straws not only do they feel horrendous in my mouth, but they also disintegrate. Like who the fuck wants paper straw in their cup, you know? Who wants that shit just blending in with their drink? Like, this isn't your home. Get the fuck out. It's probably, again, I get that it's supposed to be eco-friendly, but probably one of the worst fucking inventions I've ever seen. I hate it. Is that Rattata? I love that I've been running around. I haven't fought anything with my Charmander once. But yeah, I'd rather use plastic straws. I'm sorry, turtles, but if I have to use a straw, I'm using plastic. So sorry. Hell, I'll keep it and I'll wash it. I'll reuse it. Just don't make me use paper, please. I shouldn't have gotten that close if I have to do the better combat shit. Okay. Ooh, a hat. We got what we got. Cyclops eye. Oh, I forgot I have this skin on. This is a skin that Levi, Finn, 8, and I made specifically for like the zombie apocalypse mod pack we were fucking around with. It was very fun. For a while, Starbucks was doing that. Ugh. Scream, cry, up. I hate paper anywhere near my mouth. Paper straws can go die in a hole. I hate paper cups. I will if I have a paper cup, I will literally waterfall it into my mouth. I can't let paper touch my mouth. Again, it's that weird tooth thing. Like I feel it on the edge of my teeth. But then I also weirdly feel it also on my tongue kind of, even if the straw or the cup or whatever isn't touching my tongue, it's like I feel it, like a phantom. Like a phantom limb. Thought I heard my dog for a second. I'm basically home alone right now while my parents go on a mini vacation not too far away. Pretty. But because of that, I am the one having to take care of the dogs, which is fine, except that Brandy likes to bark at random intervals for no reason. I think she's senile. I think her old age is getting to her. Honestly. I literally the other day, I swear to fucking God, she has such selective hearing that I walked up to her and when she wasn't paying attention, I snapped my fingers next to her head because I needed to make sure that she wasn't deaf. Like she might easily be losing her hearing, but I needed to make sure. So I snapped my fingers next to her head repeatedly. And I was like at least far enough away that she wouldn't be able to feel it, like feel the vibrations in the air or whatever the fuck, or like feel the air hit her or whatever. Um, she can she can hear, she just doesn't want to. And then she's been struggling to move. Like she's got that slow grandma walk going on now. And she struggles getting up and down the couch because she has to jump up onto it. And she's like a medium-sized dog. She's not a huge dog. Um so the amount of so mean, but like the amount of times that she is just straight up pinwheeled off the couch from trying to jump up onto it is far too many times. If I had $1 for every time she did it, I'd probably be the richest bitch out there. I feel bad for her because I can't imagine that that's exactly like a fun experience. But she wears a cone because she has like some allergic reaction or something going on in her back. We don't know if it's fleas or what. We've given her multiple baths. Can't figure it out. But she has a cone on, so she'll try to jump up onto the couch, and the cone will catch on the edge of the couch, and then she'll just go flying backwards and practically do a cartwheel. She almost always lands on her feet, and when she doesn't, we always check her to make sure she's okay. But damn if it isn't funny at first. At least she's a trooper. At least with the amount of time she falls and slips and shit, she's not actually getting hurt, at least as far as we can tell. That's something. Okay, let's eat this fucking chicken. I kind of want to fight things. I want to find something to beat up. That makes sense to put in there. Drop some shit. Okay, let's go this way. We haven't gone. Oh, wait. Hold the fucking phone. Hold the fucking phone. I'm never gonna find this place again if I don't put a. This. Oh, we can go to the. Oh, that's the yellow. Let's go to the temporary way at the right here. This is giving me flashbacks to my to my Owl City phase. I listened to almost every Owl City song that was out at the time. I loved his shit. Egg. Very berry. Person. I'll try to mark these because I don't know if I'm going to need them at any point. And I don't know how to replant them if I can. Fuck off! Fuck off! I almost fucked that for myself. Never let it be said that I'm a good PvPer, because whoever says that's fucking lying to you. Never mind. Goodbye! So long, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, good night. I do to you and you and you. Do 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 do. Not following me still. He is. I've brought him home. No. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh gosh. Oh golly. Oh no. Barricade. That shouldn't have scared me as much as it did. Oh my god. Ow. You cunt. Oh, fuck. Let's get a good axe in here. Ah. Ugh. I can't hit him. Oh, dude, I was talking about this on Twitter. House of the Dragon season 2 is supposed to be coming out like a couple days after Bridgerton season 3 part 2. Not that that's in any way related, but I'm excited for both seasons, so my mind is on those. How the fuck do I kill you without dying? I think my issue is that I keep jumping. What if I crouch? Anyway, so excited for season 2 of House of the Dragon. However, I'm also terrified because I know what happens. I've not read the books, but I've seen enough TikToks about what happens in the books to oh my god to know well enough. Birch was a blocked term? Screaming. That's so funny. Anyway. That's too funny. When did I do that? When did I do that? I'm genuinely asking. I don't remember. I have the memory of a goldfish. Unless it involves my special interests. Then I will remember until I fucking die. But, oh! I think, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yep. Good times. It's not the best wood. You're in denial. Denial is a river in Egypt. Your husband is gay. But yeah, super excited for House of the Dragon Season 2, but also not excited because so many of my favorite characters are gonna either die or get trauma. Not excited for that part. I am Team Black, by the way, in case anyone was questioning it. If you haven't seen my Twitter, it would tell you all you needed to know. I am a big Rhaenyra stan, and I am also a big Alicent hater. If you don't know who these characters are, sorry. They are on opposite sides of this war, and I will scream it from the rooftop. I will scream it from the rooftops. Fuck Alicent, okay? Not like they make her seem a little bit better in the show than she is in the books. They make the characters a similar age in the show where they don't in the books. In the books, she is like Alicent is still young when her and the king get married. Like she's still underage and it's still gross. But she's still way older than Rhaenyra. Like Rhaenyra is a teenager when she's I think in her like 20s or 30s. And she's such a bitch. You're such a bitch. You're such a fucking bitch. I hate her. I hate her. In the show, there's that moment in season 1. I'm going to reference the show because I haven't read the books. I just know that a lot of what happens in the show is the same as in the books as far as Alicent's actions go. If not, some of it was cut out. So if anything, she's almost better. Like I said, she's kind of better in the show, like nicer in some ways. But she literally forces Rhaenyra to walk across the fucking castle to see her directly after she gave birth. Like she is still as far as I'm aware, she didn't even have the she didn't even birth the placenta. Like, she's still bleeding. There's still shit coming out, and she has to cross this entire fucking castle because because Allison wanted to see the baby. Pisses me off. What's that? Spruce table. Make a table. I'll make a table. Cat died. Okay, fuck 20. Still sad, still ain't got no. We're back from the ads, and as I was saying, fuck Alicent. Like I was saying, she literally forces Rhaenyra, who hasn't even like had the afterbirth yet. She's fucking bleeding. She's still got amniotic fluid. Like, there's a scene in the show, or like technically like a series of scenes, where you literally see like I hate to say it like this, but a fucking snail trail behind her across the castle because she has just like minutes prior given birth, right? And Alicent demands to see the baby. And a lot of Alicent stands are like, oh, she didn't force her to see the baby, or she didn't force her to come, she just wanted to see the baby. Alicent wanted to see the baby because she wanted to use the baby as ammunition for her I hate Rhaenyra issues. Because half of the things that she said to try to like spew shit about Rhaenyra and to make people dislike Rhaenyra, who, by the way, her nickname was the Realm's Delight. She's literally beefing with like the Realm's favorite person, like the sweetest person. Like, was she a bit straightforward and a little bit of a bitch sometimes? Yes, but it was typically warranted. But like, half of the things that Alicent would say that were bad about Rhaenyra involved the fact that her kids were bastards. Which I understand that that's a big in the show and in the time period that the show is supposed to kind of be set in. I know it's like a fantasy world, but like in that sort of time period, in like medieval times and shit, like people fucking hated bastards. They hated babies born out of wedlock. Like they hated that whole idea of it, right? They thought it was sin. They thought it was horrendous. They thought especially the women were sluts, all that shit that you still kind of hear today, which is so fucked up. Because, like, again, it's not medieval times anymore. Grow the fuck up. Anyway, one of the big issues in that time period in the show is still, like, having babies out of wedlock and everything and that whole, like, stigma or whatever. And Alicent fucking rallies behind this shit as if she isn't committing a bunch of other sins anyway. And as if she isn't also a minor married to like a 50-something-year-old man. Like, I think you have bigger issues, babe. Just a thought. But she like half the things that she would say about Rhaenyra involved her kids being bastards, which is so dumb because those kids were basically sweethearts, especially Luke. We love our boy Luke. R.I.P. my man. He was such a cutie. But yeah, half the things she said were about her kids being bastards, which also is stupid because, yeah, her kids were bastards, but they were also born out of love and an amazing arrangement between her and her husband, might I add. Like, yeah, Rhaenyra had them outside of marriage. Yeah, she wasn't being faithful in the eye of the seven, right? But one, Rhaenyra is a Targaryen. They don't follow the seven. Two, Targaryens are known for being polyamorous. And three, this whole like deal she had with her husband is like probably the best situation that she could have ended up in. Honestly. Like, yeah, her husband was gay, but they genuinely tried to have a baby together repeatedly. It's said in the show and in the books they tried repeatedly and it didn't work. It didn't happen. But she then goes on to have numerous kids with both Damon and with what's his face, her lover. Why can't I remember his name? I love him. Anyway, she has several kids with two different men. So the issue was very obviously not her. It was more than likely the guy. But anyway, she has these kids with this guy who loves her, who she loves, and her husband's totally okay with it. And he claimed the babies as his. That's like the biggest thing. Is like bastards who aren't claimed by a father are like basically shit in the eyes of most people in the Game of Thrones universe, right? And then here's her situation where not only is she technically being unfaithful, but he's still claiming the kids as his because he understands and they agreed to this and he still loves them. Again, best case scenario she could have ended up in because she would have married a guy like 10 times her age in almost any other situation anyway. And she probably would have been abused. She probably would have been shit on by whoever she was with. Like if she had ended up with the fucking Lannister dude. I can't remember his name. I think it started with a J. Like it started with a J like Joffrey's, but it wasn't Joffrey. I keep thinking Josh as if that's a common Game of Thrones name, or House of the Dragon name. I can't remember his name. But if she'd end up with him, he would have shit all over her. Like he was so misogynistic, such a prick. Like truly this was her best case scenario. And here's Alicent, who in the show is supposed to have been her best friend, and is now shitting all over her for ending up as safe as she could be. Poor Kay? Huh? Thank you, Fragile Popeye, for the follow. Much appreciate. Welcome to the crew. You joined in at a very interesting time. We're talking about Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. The Jay is a Lannister. I can't remember his name. Was it Jay? I feel like it was Jay, but that might just be because I'm thinking of Joffrey. Was it Jason? I think it might have been Jason. I think you might be right. I think it might have been Jason. I just remember his face. He was a pretty handsome actor, but fuck his character. Fuck his character. He was so misogynistic. He's literally sitting there trying to get with a future queen, and he's like, "Oh, we'll make room." Where the fuck do they live? At the ancestral house of the Lannisters. Where the fuck is that? Literally, I always have these names in my head, and now I can't remember them. I'm on the spot here. I'm trying to fucking prove that I'm smart. No, but wherever the fuck the ancestral home is of the Lannisters, he's like, "Oh, we'll make room for your dragons." And she's like, "Make room. I'm gonna be queen. We're gonna be here." Fuck you mean? Like he's so set on her not being queen. He so believes that she's not gonna be queen, even though the king has repeatedly said that she is his heir. Like he cannot fathom a woman being in power at all. Like that would have been a horrible relationship for her. Half the people who turned up when she was forced to entertain suitors in King's Landing, half of them were like elderly. They were practically deceased, like 1 foot in the grave. And Alicent has the gall to be like, she has bastards. Like you'd be pissed at her if she didn't have kids, and that's what was gonna happen if she had stayed faithful. Not to mention, in the books, they don't have it in the show, but in the books, her husband's family, some of them have black hair. So like it would have made sense for her kids to have black hair because it could have been like it could have been genetics, even though neither of them had black hair. But because they changed that, it looks even more sus, which is probably the point. But like, yeah, circling back to the whole fucking baby thing, like when I said that it was all a ploy to try to use, I think it was baby Joffrey, to use Joffrey as a pawn. It was because she wanted to take that baby, because the baby, again, looks nothing like Rhaenyra's husband. So she was going to basically parade him around and be like, look, this is proof that she's not being faithful. This baby looks nothing like her husband and looks nothing like her. And she wasn't going to stand for that, so she had to walk across this fucking castle with a baby directly after giving birth. And then Rainier's in the room, and Allison has the gall to be like, you shouldn't be up and walking after your labors. Yeah, no shit, bitch. Not to mention, she just had this baby. Who the fuck in their right mind is gonna let some servant take this baby across the castle away from them directly after having given birth? Huh? Game of Thrones based on true events. I don't know if it is or isn't. I feel like George R. R. Martin probably took some ideas off of real life because that's usually what happens. But if he did, I don't know what they were, and I don't know what points are based on true events and what's based on just his ideas. I have no idea. I know that. What was I gonna say? I know that some of his stuff is obviously like, again, it's based in like a medieval time sort of situation. And you can see that even though they have like fantasy shit like dragons and stuff, there are still aspects that you can tell are from specifically medieval times, like the weapons and the armor and things along those lines. Um, so at the very least, he had like a time period set in mind for what to base the general look of it on. I don't know about specific details. I've seen Rain though. Rain's a good one. I haven't finished it. I've gotten through a couple seasons of it, but I thought it was good. I couldn't keep watching once it got to the point where, what the fuck is her name? When the actress that played Susan Pevensey, when she had her baby show, the fuck can I remember her name? I don't know, but when she and Francis had their baby, I couldn't keep watching it because like it genuinely hurt me because I knew that she was gonna that she was gonna have issues conceiving, and then here she sees Francis with her best friend or one of her best friends with a baby. You know, I just couldn't see it. It was too heartbreaking. I say, having watched Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, which are some of the most difficult shows I've ever watched. Oh my god, those shows are rough. Like, if anytime that I recommend them to people, I'm like, they are great shows, but here's the laundry list of trigger warnings. Because holy fuck, it is long. There are so many really difficult situations, which is part of why I'm not surprised that a man wrote it. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not shitting on George R. R. Martin because I don't know what the guy's like. I haven't looked into him. But yeah, I'm gonna make a. I was gonna go mining over there, but I kind of don't feel safe, so I'm gonna mine out of my little hidey hole. Cause fuck you. That's why I'm a scaredy bitch. Yeah, I could literally probably tell you so much of what happens in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, and give you tidbits from the books. Even though, again, I've never read the books, there's just a lot that I've seen and read on TikTok. Specifically TikTok comment sections from like edits, because people will be like, "Oh yeah, I remember this part in the books," or like, "Oh, they changed this part in the books," and I'm like, "Holy fuck, game changing." Ooh, you get weird lag spike. Probably doesn't help that it's raining. Here we go. I think so far, Game of Thrones is a harder watch if I'm gonna rank them against each other. Um, which is kind of granted. It's longer. It went for many seasons. Um, and it had like sexual assault. It had um a lot of manipulation. It was kind of a rough watch just for the manipulation part, in a way. Are you sure?
Are you sure about that?
I'm trying to remember what else it has. House of the Dragon has a miscarriage. 2. Well, no, 1. It has miscarriage and it has a brutalization during childbirth. I'm gonna describe it in that sense. Very period typical. It was a situation of save the mother, save the child. and the mother had no say in the matter and was literally held down and brutalized. So, I've seen many comments on TikToks and stuff saying that pregnant women, when watching the show, were traumatized by seeing that scene. I don't blame them. Could not even imagine. It was tough to watch as someone who does not ever plan on getting pregnant and does not have any feelings regarding pregnancy that would be affected by that. So I couldn't even imagine an expecting mother or expecting parent dealing with that. And then there is a miscarriage, which isn't crazy graphic, but it's graphic enough that you can see how it's realistic, which I liked. As tough as miscarriages are to think about and to like have to watch, I feel like it's important to have some shows actually represent how difficult they can be on the body and on the mind in the moment. Because like 9 times out of 10, the mother knows they're miscarrying, and like that's fucking god awful. So that's something to watch out for in the show. Um, in House of the Dragon, there's mental manipulation, or not even, yeah, mental manipulation from a parent that leads to um Allison doing a lot of things she didn't want to. That's where a lot of people who are Allison sympathizers, I could never be one of them, um, because just what she went through does not justify how she acts, at all. Um, which is why even though I love Rhaenyra, I don't sympathize with Daemon. If you don't know, Daemon is who Rhaenyra ends up married to later in season 1. She marries her cousin. Weird, I know, but she's a Targaryen. It's normal in that family. Um, she marries her cousin. I can't remember his name. Anyway, she marries her cousin. He's, like I said, he's gay. They have an arrangement where basically they can fuck whoever they want. Like they basically agreed we're gonna try to have a baby together. Regardless, you get to fuck who you want, I get to fuck who I want. We're gonna chill with it. We're gonna love each other. We're gonna support each other, and that's exactly what they did. Like they grew up, didn't have any kids together because they just didn't conceive. But Rhaenyra had 3 kids while she was married to him, and he loved every single one of these kids unconditionally. Like, did he have issues still? Yeah, of course. But he was still a pretty good dad. Um, and then they then concoct a plan together, um, to fake his death so that he can leave and marry his lover, who he wouldn't have been able to marry, in King's Landing because, excuse me, because being gay is a sin in King's Landing, as is most places in a time period like that. But he was going to Essos, I think, which is like across the ocean or across the sea from King's Landing. So it's like a whole different area, different shit going on. Um, he goes to Essos after they fake his death, and he marries his lover. And Rhaenyra uses that chance to marry her uncle. And you'd be like, "Oh, that's disgusting." Yes, it is, but this is a Targaryen in Game of Thrones, so it's normal for their family. There's literally been incest in that family for years and years and years. It's probably the only instance you'll ever see where they don't come out with all these different birth defects and all these different health issues, looking completely deformed, because it's fantasy. Cool thing though that you might not connect the dots to if you only see Game of Thrones or if you've only seen Game of Thrones. Um, the Targaryen line specifically, when they have miscarriages or stillbirths or things along those lines, 9 times out of 10, that baby has dragon characteristics like scales, wings, tail, horns, like the whole nine. And I don't remember if I feel like George R. R. Martin explained why, other than the fact that like they're very connected with their dragons. Um, but that's something that you see once in both shows, Game of the Dragon or Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, is these stillbirths and or miscarriages with dragon characteristics to them, which is cool but also sad. Um, but that's the only instance where you see something wrong in the family genetics. But yeah, so she wants to marry her uncle who's been going after her and pining after her since she was a literal child. Disgusting, I know. I know. And that's part of why I don't sympathize with Damon or like Damon is because he's at the end of the day, even though he is Matt Smith, we love Matt Smith in this house. Even though he's played by Matt Smith, the character is still a predator, you know? And he's also fucked. He's also fucked up. He's portrayed as a really good dad and I think a decent husband, even though again, predator. Um, but after Rhaenyra's second son dies, Lucerys, also known as Luke. After he dies, because of Alicent's second son, after this like lifelong beef between them comes to a head, and this kid literally makes his dragon eat Lucerys and his dragon almost whole. Um, like, let me show you this clip. Actually, for the people who haven't seen this clip, it's fucking insane. Um, spoilers. Obviously, this whole entire conversation is spoilers, but um Aemond, you'll probably get confused as I say a lot of these names because a lot of the names are very similar. Um but Aemond and Lucerys got in a fight when they were younger, resulting in Aemond losing an eye, which caused even more issues between Alicent and Rhaenyra for several reasons. Um but he lost his eye, which both kids were at fault in several different ways. Aemond didn't throw the first punch, but then he tried to bash one of the kids' heads in with a rock. So Lucerys was defending himself and cut his eye and made him lose his eye. But Aemon took this very personally and rode his dragon Vagar, who is like the size of a fucking skyscraper. Like he is huge. Rode Vagar in comparison to Lucerys' dragon, Vermax, I think. Vermax, who's still basically a baby. Like he's the size of a car. Maybe a truck. He chases Vagar, or yeah, he chases them on Vagar through a storm. Vagar, who is a war dragon, like grew up during a time of war, was used during war, he thinks this is him trying to kill them and trying to catch them. So when he flies up on Lucerys and Vermax, he fucking eats them. Like the only thing left of them is Vermax's wings. That's it. He ate both of them whole, essentially. Um, and when that happens, Damon is like, an eye for an eye, a son for a son. And so he targets Alicent's firstborn son, not to kill him, but he targets Alicent's firstborn son and targets his kids. Because Alicent's firstborn son is the person everyone's rallying behind. Because the big like tension in the show is who's supposed to be the next ruler. Because the king at the time had sons after he had Rhaenyra. This is Rhaenyra's father. He killed his previous wife, Rhaenyra's mother, trying to make her have sons. She didn't. She died giving him a son, and then the son died. Um, and then he proceeded to marry Rhaenyra's friend in the show. Not so much friend as far as I know in the books, but basically marries this woman way younger than him. She ends up giving him 3 sons. But by that point, he's already declared Rhaenyra as his heir. He believes she's his heir. He's like fully behind her. He doesn't change it, even though almost everyone else would, and everyone else is like, oh, but she's not a son. You know, she's a woman. She can't be the ruler. He's like, nope, I chose her. Sorry, not sorry. And everyone's like, oh, but what about your sons? He's like, what do you mean about what about them? Now that he's had sons, by the way, he doesn't recognize any of them. Like he doesn't care about them whatsoever, ever. Um, so because this kid, Aegon, the king's firstborn son, Rhaenyra's younger brother, half brother, because he's being backed by all these different lords and by his mother, obviously, to be the next king, even though he's not technically in line for the throne, or like he's not the heir. Um, he usurps the throne from Rhaenyra while she's like directly after her father died and she's having a miscarriage is when she finds out that her half brother is taking the throne from her. So Daemon targets Alicent and Aegon through his kids, who he doesn't really care about, by the way, but he's still like devastated by the loss of one of them. He has twins, Jaehaera and Jaehaerys, and Daemon sends these two guys, Blood and Cheese. One's a rat catcher, one's something else, which is why they have the nicknames. But he sends Blood and Cheese to give Aegon's wife an ultimatum: choose a kid. Choose a kid, and we'll kill that one and spare the other one. But then they reverse it. So the one that she names, they end up they basically, I don't remember exactly how they do it, if it's like she picks one and she's supposed to have that one saved, or if it's she picks one and that one's supposed to be killed. But basically whatever way it is, they reverse it, kill the kid she didn't want killed in front of her face, cause her to commit sewer slide, and Daemon also does a lot of other really fucked up shit. So that's why I'm not a Daemon sympathizer. But he was a good husband, and I will never stop saying that. Thank you. Have a good night. For stopping by. Let me show you the video. Sorry. Anyway. Make it see. Okay. See if we can find the exact. This is what I'm talking about with this. I wanted to show you guys the clip or the scene where Vhagar eats Lucerys and Vermax, because it is fucking insane. There's also a bit in here that shows the size difference between them, which is wild. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. They didn't even have anything to bury or burn, because this fucking dragon ate the entire child. But yeah, it's fucking batshit. Again, highly recommend the shows, but they're a lot mentally, emotionally, physically. Oh, hello, Kermit. Kermit the Frog here. A sepia. Oh, dude, I love the supplementaries globes. I don't want any of this. I also only have one. I only have one emerald. I can't spend it on this. Yeah, that'll be the end of my of my rant, because I've spent far too long talking about it and not actually gaming. But yeah, it's fucking wild. Like I said, highly recommend you watch it if you can. If you're like, oh, I don't have HBO Max, it's fine, babes. Pirate it. Use soaptoday.com. I fucking love soaptoday.com. Soap Today is the shit. I don't know why I keep mining further down this way. I'm gonna have to turn. Goodness. Go. Oh, I didn't get the coal achievement yet. Duly noted. I need to get coal. Not that it gives me much, but like it's worth it. Oh, isn't there one for a sword too? Might be better if I have a sword than an axe. Jen? Yes. Coal. What do I need? Don't know what 43% of 32 is. Quick, somebody math. I'm not good at math. I'm decent at it, but I'm not. What was I gonna make? I was gonna do something else up here before I went. Oh yeah, the sword. The uh body. Oh, I tweeted about this too. Um, if you didn't know, I get chronic migraines, and I started I started a new medication recently. It's injection, which I haven't done a migraine injection before. I haven't done any like do-it-yourself injections ever. So this was a new experience to be sure. It wasn't bad though. Like I've never had a phobia of needles or an issue with or anything. I mean, as a kid, I would kick and scream and fucking make a fuss over getting a shot. Um, but like today, I have no issue with it. I don't particularly like focusing in on it. I know some people can like look at get themselves getting the shot easy peasy, whatever, but for some reason I can't. It weirdly almost makes it hurt more when I look at it. I don't know. But pickaxe. But I didn't have an issue with that. It wasn't really that painful. The only issue is that my stomach was kind of messed up at the time. So I was really concerned because like I knew that one of the side effects was not your stomach issues, and I knew that it started too early for it to be the shot anyway. But that was making me concerned because I was like, oh, what if it is and I can't tell? Like it was just making me anxious. So that wasn't great. Um, but it was easy to do. Easy peasy. Um, here's to hoping it works. The only time I've had a migraine, granted, I literally just did it yesterday, but so far, no migraines. The only thing is I almost had a migraine yesterday. Um, but I will say that I was warned there's a chance that my migraines could get worse before they get better with the shot. Like, I could get an uptick in migraines for the first couple weeks, and then the next couple weeks be great. It just depends on how my body reacts to it. So, that's something to look out for as well. At the moment, or well, when I went to the appointment with the neurologist, I was up to like 2 migraines a week, which is a lot. Especially when your migraines are pretty bad. Like mine tend to be really, really bad. Um, not like hospital bad. Thank God, I've never had that. But enough that like I'm basically out of commission for the day, and then depending on how I feel after the migraine, I might be out of commission for even longer. Because the migraines take it out of you. They make you tired. They make you weak. They make you genuinely feel out of it, like you're not quite sure what day it is, what time it is. You just need like some time to recuperate. So depending on how the migraine was, sometimes I take even longer to get back to it. Um, which could be like a whole another day. So it's more like 4 days a week of dealing with migraines because it's like 2 days of the migraines themselves, and 2 days recuperating from the way it makes my body feel after the fact. Oh my gosh, I think we found a geode. Oh hell yeah. Hell yeah. Um but yeah, so we'll see what happens, we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna probably keep updating on Twitter about it just because I don't know, like My first experience with seeing anyone get shots like that was my best friend getting shots for their arthritis. So I'd like to update about it and make other people realize, hey, it's not as scary or daunting as it might seem, and kind of defeat some of the stigma to it, if possible. Staircase down. I don't like the way the amethyst looks in this. I like the sound, but I hate the weird, almost checkered like look. Hate it. Here. Okay, I'll be right back. I go to the bathroom. Um, yeah, I will be right back. Back. Took me a little bit longer than I planned because I realized we had some packages I had to take in. But we're good to go now. Damn, I just realized I'm gonna have to die before I go to a village, huh? Which I definitely want to find, by the way. I don't know much about this Cobblemon pack. I wonder if I can find shit like... Oh, let's go make some more torches. Come back down here. Might be good to make the iron pick too. There we go. The timer's going for my disease. Um, not exactly pleasant outside. I don't want to go out there. Oh, what? I've got the axe. Let's see how far. Not far, probably. Fortunately. Definitely need more. There's no baddies. Okay. And baby fox is struggling down there. Struggle bus. Go cook that up. I kind of want to do. I recently got Lunar Client, and I like that it has a bunch of mods in it. Just to like make the gameplay a little bit nicer. Like a fucking gives you the mini map, compass, shit like that, and then like the built-in shaders and shit. I kind of want to do a stream of just fucking hardcore, on Lunar Client, honestly, because it looks pretty fucking sexy. But that's just my opinion. Iron black. Black. There we go. I don't even know what half the shit that I was seeing down there is for. But I'm gonna get it anyway. I definitely need to find more coal down there. But I don't think I'm at... I don't know what coal level it at it. So... if I go looking for coal, the appropriate level. Hopefully. Maybe. Quadrillum. For this. Just make another, right? I think. I think that's the case. I really... Oh, holy shit. You can make a nuke core. You can make a fucking nuke. So I want to see. Fun. The other... Oh, we can make quadrillum. I don't know how that is in comparison to iron. Just for... think back. Sorry. It's pain. I apologize in advance for my singing. Oh, for all the years away from what I've known. I would trade the world to see sun and if does a cup, it's a candle cup. I'm apologizing in advance if I totally butcher that username. Thank you, Louis Wifey Curate. That was probably awful. Thank you for the follow, though. Welcome to the crew. Never let it be said that I'm good at saying usernames, because that's just not the case. Someone fucking lied. This is weirdly a good way to get seeds without doing much work. Stone. Teak ink. Oh wait, I need that for the globe, don't I? Think. Let's see. Yeah, the globe. Written book. Excuse me, tattered. Withered mat. That's cool! It's really fucking cool. You need it specifically for the sepia globe. Do you need it for the regular globe? You do, and I have two, so I can make a regular globe and then turn it into a sepia globe. I'm hearing only good things. I started a poll on Twitter, of which Miss Jackson song is better. It's, Miss Jackson by Panic! The Disco versus Miss Jackson by Outkast. And so far, I realize I could pick these up. I'm taking all of them. So far, Miss Jackson by Outkast is winning, which is the correct answer. Because while I like both of them, there is an obvious winner. It's also Outcast by, or Miss Jackson by Outcast is a fucking classic in my opinion. It's so good. Yes, did you hear that noise? Wow. Peace. It's like a prime area to find some goodies. So a little skeptical going down there. Hey, my gear is. I see stone. Oh, then this way, right? No. Okay, let's head back up, smelt what we have, or at least smelt what we can of what we have. If not, go a different direction. This way. Yes. Oh yeah. So oh la la. You scared me. Great big bastard bitch. I did get the iron one. Oh, I didn't get the coal one yet. Boo! I gotta get enough coal to unlock that one because I get a free iron pick from it. It's more food, I think. Very sure. Hi, how you doing? Welcome in. More coal. What's oh my goodness. Where art thou? Oh? Okay, from the darkness. Cool. Scary. Calm down. Ooh, what is that? Something. I want it. I got it. Oh, and I got the coal one, I think. I didn't. What did I get? Couldn't tell you. Oh, the skeleton. Jesus! Stop! Give me a fucking hell. That's it. What the fuck did I just set it at? That's at fucking 3%. Still sounds like it's fucking right outside my window. Jesus. Manganese. This one's pretty. How have I still not gotten the coal one? How close am I? 40? Are you kidding me? Jesus. Excuse me. What's that? Oh, a Joltik. It looks like a tick, so I could see why it's called Joltik. I will say it's interesting hearing the differences between how people from Japan say the how people from Japan say the different Pokemon names um versus how people outside of Japan do it. Cuz like they'll call like, this is just an example cuz a lot of them are like named after like their type or whatever basically. Cuz like Squirtle was literally called like water. It's weird. Like, it was something like that. Like fucking air type would be called fucking, or like gust, you know? Hi bud, I forget to put you away. Go back home now. Thanks. How did I no, I was no, yeah, how the fuck did I get the iron quest before I got the coal one? Make that shit make sense. Cool. Pretty. What I need to do ASAP is find some sheep. Start breeding the sheep. Because then I can make a Gyrodyne. So make run around map a lot easier. There we go. Hailing. Let's get the fuck out of here. On the phone. Promethium ore. You get this shit. Luxuriant vegetable. In jungles, lush caves. Oh, so it's only in jungles and lush caves. Interesting. We go. Emote. The watercolor eye. Who bears all teeth in every smile? I don't even know how much of this I can smelt. I don't think it's all of it. Smelt all. We eat. Oh shit. Shiny zigzagoon. Let me put all my mythic metals in there. Manganese. Orchids and is a yes. Oh, I didn't even realize zinc is a create thing. Interesting. Ooh, Promethium looks sick as fuck. There we go. Oh yeah. Actual protection again. Go right for it. Which is insane because it's almost not. To be fair to myself, I was gonna take a nap earlier and then I didn't. Yes, on me. My bad. I think I need. Yeah, I need wool for this too. For the daily shop. I need sap. I can make the daily shop. So I can make. Yeah. Gyrodyne. I'm gonna complete some of the quick. It's the hook. I'm gonna clutter up my shitty. Go. Awesome. Got it right now. 5, 9. Got it right now. Got it. Poor Foxy just got hurt. I feel like I should go boating in this direction, the east. Because my only other two options that I can see on the map are dark oak and spruce, and I prefer either.